Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I am here today hosting. Colleen is actually in Japan. I'm going to share some of her stuff in just a second. And Danny's here, but she is currently on vacation in Germany.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
Well, in Europe. She's currently in Germany, but she's in a couple places in Europe. So we're going to let her be just a participant today as much as possible. So we are glad that everybody is joining us here. It's a beautiful fall morning here in Portland, Oregon. So I wanted to share what Colleen is or currently did this morning for us. She is in Karama Village in Japan. She is going to be teaching a Reiki Master and Karuna Reiki Master class there with William Rand on Mount Karama, which is where Yusui Sensei received Reiki. She's also co-teaching with Lena Takahashi and Muni Kai Mohammed, and I believe that is in I want to say it's in Kyoto, but I could be wrong. And yeah, it's in I think they have an office in Kyoto now. But the whole point of that is that Lena was actually streaming live from her account this morning for me, evening for them, from Karama Village, where they had a fire festival, and it's an ancient festival. So I was able to join their live. Their Instagram is Healing Land Reiki or Healing Land Reiki. And so I was able to join their live to watch a little bit about what Colleen was experiencing at the fire festival in Karama Village. She went a little early so that she could go. So I do want to have a caveat. I think the sound and how I can share it is going to be very different from my voice right now versus the sound in the actual Instagram video. So be ready to turn your volume down as far as I can tell. I just want to give everybody a little bit of a warning. So especially if you're listening in your AirPods or earbuds, it doesn't blow your eardrums out. It may correct it. I am just not sure. So I wanted to give everybody a heads up on that. So let me go ahead and share. So I'm sharing just straight from their Instagram. So here is the fire festival. I'm just going to show a few clips.
Want to see the final parts of the festival?
So that was the ending part. I got to watch them kind of parade through the village with these, from what I can tell, shrines. It was hard to hear Lena through it. I'll go ahead and turn off the sound. You can see that they are carrying these shrines, and then they drum up and down the streets, and there's also bells and things like that. So that's pretty neat too. And Colleen and Lena tonight are staying at one of the traditional Ryokan inns in Karama Village. And so they actually got to be really close to the festival, which Lena said in her video, or close to the shrines, which Lena said in her video is actually not very common. But because of them staying there and her relationship with the owners of the end, that they were kind of given special permission for it.
Hello everyone, I'm currently at Mount.
So that's pretty cool. And then let's see if I can see anything else here. There they are. And this is where they're carrying the shrines up and down. So anyways, I just thought I'd like to share because it's fun to see things like that. It's a very traditional festival. And yeah, I thought it was fun. I got to watch the live this morning. So anyway, that's what Colleen's up to, or what Colleen was up to yesterday. and they were right near the drums, so it was pretty hard to hear. But I had asked Lena in the live, I said, "What's going on behind you?" And so she flipped her camera around, and there's a lot of people that are parading through the streets behind all of these people. And apparently, they also give you the warning that make sure to wear clothes that you don't mind being singed a little bit because there's so many people carrying torches. This is what Colleen had told me. Um, but she said that behind her in the parade of people is like 12,000 people. So it was actually very busy. And the fact that she got to be so close to the shrines, and I apologize if that's not the exact correct word that I'm using. I wasn't able to get details from them because it was so late there, that I think they just went to bed right after. But that they were so close to him that it was actually the drums. Like you can see Lena, she's right next to the drum on the shrine. Those people that were standing on the top of it are just like right up there. So it's that's pretty neat to see all of that. So the question in the chat was, what is the Instagram account that I just showed? That's Healing Land Reiki. Lena and Munikai are the owners of Healing Land Reiki. They actually live in Japan, and they have a very good relationship with the priests and the owners of the Ryokan Inn in Kurama. And so they help facilitate that relationship for William and Colleen, and Lena helps translate and things like that. So that's how they were able to be so close into the festival and be able to partake in the way that they were. So anyway, I thought that was really fun and not something that you get to see every day. So Karama Village is tiny, 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 and and it's a Shinto. I might be incorrect. It might be Buddhist, but it's a Shinto or Buddhist festival that they are and what they're celebrating. Again, I don't know all of the details, but it isn't a huge thing. So it's not something that you get to see every day. So I thought that was really neat. And what a beautiful thing that technology can bring us, that I got to watch that live with Lena and Colleen being right there. And so that was really fun. So. Anyway, okay, let's get to today's topic. We are talking about intentions in Reiki journeying and Reiki sessions, and how those can help us. And also, sometimes in those times where we're not even sure what our intentions may be. So with intentions, with that journeying aspect, so many times when we go into a Reiki session or we go into Reiki journey techniques, and as we said, during this month of October, we are talking about all of the different things when we're adding a Reiki journey into our Reiki practice. And so I want to get to that just because there's always a lot to talk about when it comes to that. So what do I mean when I am talking about what an intention is? I think most of us know it's essentially that conscious goal that we are using, that we are setting for ourselves, or if we are a practitioner for somebody else, that we are asking, what would you like the Reiki to work on in this session? And for me, I always find that it is a powerful tool for directing the Reiki energy. It's funny because in sessions I've had people in the past where I've had to explain, like, just so you know, with the intentions that you are setting, for the most part, sometimes the Reiki goes where it wants to go, but for the most part, Reiki is going to reveal, it's going to heal directly surrounding the intention that you set for this session. Sometimes people can come into the sessions, especially if you are including a Reiki journey, where they might have this expectation of fantastical things happening, things that are completely unrelated. And while those things, maybe even like a psychic predictive type idea of what these sessions are capable of, And while that can happen, and people are like, how did you know that? That's like such a deep understanding of myself. How did you know that? That can happen. For the most part, the energy flows where your intention goes, right? So it is going to go to the things that you have set out to have healing around, to have empowerment around, that letting go, that bringing in aspect that we always talk about. Excuse me. So intentions are about seeking guidance, helping make decisions or finding clarity. They're about releasing blocks. Maybe you're wanting to connect with a spiritual guide or the angels or ascended masters, or just really needing healing to occur. It can be that they are working for you in a physical aspect. So many of us with Reiki are working on the physical things for ourselves. It might be mental, emotional, and it might be spiritual, or it might be a combination of all three, right? Because sometimes our physical pain has a deeper underlying cause to it. So many times when we come into a session, that's what we're hoping. We're hoping for healing around that. And, there are things that can happen with intentions that can create difficulty around knowing what our intentions are. So sometimes we can feel disconnected from like our needs, our desires, like what do I even want? It's funny because in all of my sessions, which this actually can be a helpful clarifying question or a helpful clarifying statement for people to know what their intention is. And Colleen and I will ask this, and everybody who has been through the next step or spirit reveal technique might also have this as a part of their interview process, when it comes to sessions of what do you want to let go of and what do you want to bring in. And it's interesting because I was actually having this conversation with a client yesterday, and it was like, I have been thinking about this, a regular client. I've been thinking about that question. What do I want to bring in all week? I've been listening around it, and I just can't think of something. And it's so funny because I get it. Same. Like, like what do I want to bring in here? That sometimes can be the harder question around it. And so we were laughing because I was like, but I bet you know what you want to let go of, right? Like we always can think of something to heal. Sometimes it's the harder aspect of like, what do I need? What do I want to receive? What is the empowerment side of that? It's just a normal human condition. But those two clarifying questions, what do you want to let go of? What do you want to bring in? And what's interesting about those two things is I usually ask those at the end of the interview, right? Even myself, I will ask those questions. What do I want to let go of? What do I want to bring in when I'm in a Reiki journey? And even though what they thought might be their intentions is going to be a little bit different, those two questions, some deeper answers can really come through. And what they want to let go of and what they want to bring in can seem so different than what they thought their intention was. Like, let's say they want to let go of fear, or their intention is that they have something in their life that is creating fear, and that's what they want to let go of. And then when they actually get to that question, something completely different will come through. So I like those clarifying questions because sometimes there can be an overwhelm of the multitude of potential intentions or that clarity around it, that potential disconnection from that underlying or those true needs or desires. Sometimes we have a fear of getting it wrong, or that we need to have it be perfect, that maybe it's not exactly said how we think it should be said, like there's a fear around that. And so sometimes that can create um a challenge in knowing what your intention could be. I always ask Reiki to spiritually clarify what I mean by that, even if my words come out a little differently than what my heart knows around it or what my heart intention is. And so that can be really, really helpful around it. Sometimes there's a feeling that the intention doesn't bring the expected outcome. That can be a really big one, especially if you're in a cycle where there's a lot of growth and expansion. Like, wait a second, like this isn't what I asked for, right? And so there is this aspect of sometimes, though, thank goodness for unanswered prayers, because sometimes what we thought we wanted is not actually what we really wanted. And those that Reiki knowing where the bigger picture outside of maybe our own perspective in that moment. And also there can be some flexibility in that, right? That we have an intention, because this is the other thing, even though I said earlier that a lot of times Reiki goes where the intention flows, right? That, or Reiki flows where the intention goes. And sometimes, though, there are those unexpected times. Sometimes we have this intention, then and it takes a completely right turn. We're like, wait a second, this isn't what I was asking for. But hindsight is 2020, and we find that we what that intent, what the information or what the feelings that came through around it that might have been different than what we set out to be were really answering our intentions or answering these things, even though it didn't seem like it in the moment. And so there are all of these aspects to intentions and setting intentions, that are important, and they're important to know. And I think, there is also this aspect when, you have all of these different experiences that even when it is exactly what you expected, right? That the answer feels so obvious that it's like, yeah, that's what I asked for, and it's showing me exactly what I asked for. There's validation in that. And then there's other times that it's the opposite, where it is not at all what we thought we were asking for, and it goes a completely different way. And at some point, while there can be frustration within all of that, at some point, there is this level of trust around it all that can come through, that it's like, okay, I just trust what the Reiki is showing me. Now, we're still the human on the team, right? We still have a life and a material world that we live in, and we have some of those things that, we have to definitely consider, and we get to dialogue with it and ask questions. And, maybe sometimes there is resistance. That's normal as well. Um, but there is there is also this aspect of leaning into the trust of what Reiki is showing us, even if maybe it is. I know I've had this experience, and some of you might also have this experience, where I'm receiving a session and I've set my intention, and the intention is whatever it is, and the session comes through, or what comes through in the session is, or like a journey that's so like, yeah, duh, that's what I said in my intention. And that can lead to some frustration around it. And maybe even a little bit of resistance of leaning into that deeper level of listening around it. And again, it's one of those things that you might look back and be like, "Oh, that's what it was saying. That's why it went so directly to my intention. That's why it, was validating what I was looking for, where maybe even bringing the energy in behind it. Maybe there was resistances or blocks behind it that needed to be released through that Reiki session, or Reiki journey. There's all of these kinds of things around um, our intentions that our higher self knows, which is a part of the reason that we do this work, is so that we can tap into our higher selves or our subconscious selves, or we can have that enlightened energy help us with that. Because it knows to a greater degree than maybe what we can see in that moment. And I know for me that setting intentions helps me focus in Reiki journeys, Reiki sessions. Like I know for me, having that moment where I know what my intention is. Sometimes, sometimes I go in not knowing, and that's fine too, because there is that aspect, right? I talked about that. Is sometimes there's so many things going on. I'm like, I have no idea. I just have to have Reiki tell me. I just have to go into a journey and know and just allow whatever comes through to come through. However, most of the time, 90% of the time, having that intentions helps that journey know where to go. Because what's happening in that is that it is giving a framework for our minds to be able to perceive the information in a way that we know how to perceive it. It uses the language that we know how to be able to receive that message. So what I might have in my if I'm doing a journey, let's say for somebody else, for example, it's going to give me language that is within my own scope of knowing to help be able to relay that information, even if it's information that like I don't know. So it might give me a metaphor of something that I know. I've said this before that I get movie metaphors all the time, scenes from movies, a lot of Disney movies randomly, but I get scenes from movies that I've seen that help me to understand what is trying to come through in the session. But somebody else might have something completely different that is a metaphor for them, or maybe it's very literal that's within their own scope of knowing, so that we can come to, like that similar answer of what the Reiki is trying to tell us. And having intentions help guide that, right? It's helping to set this trail up for our journeys in order to give us a template or in order to give us a framework so that those intentions can be answered. So those questions can be answered so that whatever is blocking us from our most authentic self is released so that or our inner truth or whatever is released, and so that the things that we need for that empowerment, for that bringing in that those higher frequencies can also be brought in a way that we can understand it. I find that it is, and I would say most people, it's why we actually take time to set intentions around it. Find that it really helps with a very effective journey or a Reiki session. It helps guide us to very specific needs. Also, I find too that we're in altered states of consciousness during journeys. Like that's what we're doing during that. We're going into non-physical realms, and so intentions help act as kind of like an anchor. It helps us even maybe to maintain focus during that altered state of consciousness. Now, I'm not saying that I don't like the times when you can just go as far out as you need and just allow it to be what it is. But in the times where, we have, let's say, well, in these journeys, we have 25 minutes to be able to, if we're lucky, to be able to have an intention set, a healing to take place, a bringing in or an empowerment to take place. Like we need kind of um, that focused piece of it so that we can have, because then there's obviously infinite amounts of consciousness, right? So it could potentially go anywhere. So it helps us to maintain that focus around it. So also I find that that trust within not just the intention, but the trust in Reiki helps me go into like a deeper state of relaxation and a deeper state of trust so that I can be open to whatever guidance comes through, whatever, even if it is, as somebody said in the chat, very woo woo, even if it is outside of what our normal framework is and the things that we receive and say and all of those things. Sometimes when it's for other people and it's something that I would never in my conscious mind be able to make up, because it's so outside of my own life experience and perspective. It really allows me to be in that trust that I know, and the Reiki energy allows me to be in that trust that I know that this is what the Reiki energy is trying to show, because there's healing and there's empowerment taking place for this other person. So there's that aspect to it. Also, spiritual guides, right? We've done that work here. Um, we are, I know like we've done journeys to meet spiritual guides, divine animal kingdom, things like that. And using an intention to invite them. I want to find out what my spiritual guide is, or what my angel is, or what can help me through this period of time in my life where I need that additional support, that extra guidance. So there's that. And then, of course, when we're talking about moving deeper and deeper into our own intuition, clarity on our questions, and let's say we're at a fork in the road, right, with our life, like, how can we use intentions to help us navigate that or bring in solutions for us? So, intention setting, I would say, is also its own whole subject. There are there is so much, or there are so many resources on intention setting, and so many people do it in different ways. We have intention set in this circle before we get here. Those are the different topics that we are talking about each month or each week. Those are intentions that we have gone in and listened for, of what wants to kind of come through with the energy, and what the energy is telling us is also needed in this time frame, and also maybe with our particular circle. So that's another aspect of it. I think that the energy, we always hear like, this is exactly what I've been like listening for right now, and we hear that framework a lot. um and or we hear that feedback a lot, is what I mean. And so that is a part of this, is that the intentions are, so today the intention, it are intentions, like how do we go into a deeper listening of ourselves with in intentions, and how can we find those before we go into sessions, self Reiki, and especially Reiki journeys. So that's what we're going to be doing today in our journey, is setting some intentions, and then, going into the journey to listen into our answers around that. All right. I think that that's good. Oh, I do want to say, because I didn't say it at the beginning, Colleen and I are doing a free webinar on November 20th. It's at 10 a.m. Zoom's freaking out. It's at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We haven't sent anything out about it, but you will receive it. You will receive information about it. It's, like I said, it's free. And yeah, so you will receive information about it. We're going to send it out to our podcast Distance Reiki share list. Definitely sign up for the Distance Reiki share list for that, and receive information. If you can't make it live, that's okay. I'm just making sure I have the date, and that is a Wednesday, November 20th. And it's free. And also, if you're not able to make it live, if you're signed up for it, you will receive the replay to it. So, you don't have to worry about worry about that with it. So you can definitely go back and watch it. It's going to be on past life healing. More information about that, and also, of course, we always do guided journeys within that.